Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution. Hello, and welcome to Then a Moment, the podcast where two lifelong storytellers talk about stories. I'm Pavi Proczko, audiobook narrator, writer, composer, actor, singer, etc.
And I am Colin Funk, a childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And today, we're going to be talking about The Emperor's New Groove. And because today is a special episode that we're celebrating Colin's birthday.
Woohoo!
Woo.
Turning 33.
Oh my gosh, wow. And so we wanted to do one of his favorites. So,
Yeah.
and then, so we settled on this one. I guess he did. He chose it.
I did.
So before we get to that, let's talk about our moment of the week.
Yeah. I'll go first.
Okay.
I have recently been watching a lot of this new, it's not new, it's not this program, not program, what was
The
the
app,
word?
the streaming service?
A new streaming service, yes, to me, not
Yes.
new.
It used to be
College
College Humor, yeah.
It's owned by College Humor. And it's just like College Humor shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe College Humor's, I don't know, did College Humor
Their
change
network?
their
I don't know.
name?
I think maybe they did,
Oh,
but
wow.
not sure.
The research that has been done.
I know we've done no research. We will. We'll come back and we'll update you next time.
Maybe. Anyway, been watching Dropout, their streaming service currently, and they have lots of fun shows like Game Changer, which is a game show that changes whatever game they're playing every show, which is amazing. But my moment is something that I'm sure Pavi is
my God.
real annoyed with already. But there's a show called Play It by Ear, which is a show where they improv and make up a musical on the spot. So none of the actors know what's going on, none of the musicians know what's going on. It's like the song challenges in Whose Line Is It Anyway, but extended to make a full musical. So it's very silly. Some of it comes out very silly, and weirdly they make some great stories.
Really good stories and really catchy songs.
And because they're very formulaic, but there's one moment that I go back to over and over again. There's one of the episodes, it's like this like 90s mall adventure, and these kids they stay in the mall after closing hours, and they go on some scavenger hunt. But at one point, like there was a claw machine, and it kept bringing out bears. So they start a song about the bears, and it's so stupid. But what's really great about that show is like they take all these like stupid little moments and string them together.
Yeah.
They like keep bringing them back, even if it's like it feels really stupid in the moment, because like this claw machine takes out a bunch of bears, and they're like, what are we going to do with all these bears? And they are talking about what if a bear went to college? Like I don't even know how they got into it.
I think because they wanted to take the bears with them to college.
Oh, to college. Oh yeah, we're going to take the bears with us.
Yeah.
And so it just like evolved into, we got to take the bears with us to school.
Oh my God.
The next school that they're at, they're going to university, which means bears.
It's like their
they
last
gotta
summer
go to college.
before college. Yeah.
So there's just like this riff in one of the songs. It's just bears got to have knowledge. That's right.
Yep.
Bears got to have knowledge. Bears got to go to college. And then it evolves more into, and that bear becomes your wife, and you'll be with that bear for the rest of your
my
life.
gosh,
And
it's so
I
stupid.
sing it daily, and I watch it
He does.
almost daily.
Oh my God. It's so funny and so
I
dumb.
don't know why it's so stupid,
It really is.
but I love it.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's good. My moment is actually also from Dropout.
I knew you would do that. I had a feeling.
Now he like subscribe, and we're all like, "What's on this show?" So they have also on Dropout they have Dimension 20, which is like Dungeons and Dragons adventures that are recorded live. So they sit around a table, and it's like they use dice, and when they describe their characters and locations, they have like little illustrations that they like superimpose on the screen, and they have sound effects, and it's very fun. And we, of course, were watching the Dungeons and Drag Queens, which was really good.
Is it?
I think it's just called Dungeons and Drag Queens.
Okay.
Dimension 20 Dungeons and Drag Queens. And so some of our favorite queens are on there. So it's Alaska,
oh my God,
like a RuPaul, Jujubee, Alaska,
Monet
Exchange, and Bob the Drag Queen. And that's the four. And it's like an
What
excellent group
a
of people.
Great group.
But it's excellent, highly recommended. And we were big fans of Queens of Adventure, which was based out of Seattle, a podcast that was Dungeons and Drag Queens also. And so I wonder how they feel about it. It really feels very similar in its scope, and it's obviously very, very fun. But I don't want to necessarily talk about that one. I want to talk about the other one I'm watching, which is the Court of Fae and Fairies.
Sounds just
and it really does, doesn't it? And what is interesting about it is how the dungeon master, I don't remember what her name is, Ayana, something like that. Iyengar is her last name. But she has built this Fae, kind of like in the Fae realm adventure where this bloom is happening, and all of the Fae from the different Fae realms are all coming together for this celebration, and there's all this intrigue. And it is it's like Edwardian kind of comedy of manners situation. Like it's a very like Pride and Prejudice situation where there's little extra mechanics that she's thrown in with the D&D for like how to kind of move yourself forward in society, and everyone has a secret. And it's astonishing because I realized at some point, this is like the moment where everyone they are together, usually for Dungeons and Dragons, especially as a dungeon master, I'm like, everybody's on the same team and you have to be going for the same goal. They all have secrets from each other, and they're not playing together necessarily. You have to, because you're going to need allies. But no, they don't know each other's motivations. And so they're like secretly like making little alliances with each other to like hunt the hart during the great heart hunt, right? And they're hunting this white stag, and they kind of like pair up a little bit. And they're like, oh, well, we kind of have a little, you're like, do you want to maybe go do this? And we're going to like not talk about exactly why we want to do this. It was like the moment that I realized that like, oh my gosh, they're competing. But in order to win, you will need allies. Right. And it was a really interesting way to run a Dungeons and Dragons game. And very difficult to do if you don't have like really experienced players, because really every player in this campaign, there's 6 of them. It's a big campaign too. They're all dungeon masters, so they all like know what's going on.
Mostly the case.
And it has to be
seasons.
Like, right. And it really, that's kind of a requirement. You need the people who are game, but it's so much conversation. Like so much of the game is them having these little social scenes with each other, not even necessarily with people outside of them. Like not run by the dungeon master. A lot of it is run by the dungeon master, but a lot of the story is their interactions with each other, and it's fascinating. Highly recommended. But seeing that happen was really interesting. A D&D game where they're actively competing, but using each other to forward their aims. Really interesting.
Is there a specific moment that you want to highlight?
It was, they did this convention where they took a pause and everybody got to write letters to someone. It's like very like, everybody writes letters and like Jane Austen.
Like you said, very Regency.
Right, very Regency. They like, everybody's like, some people write to each other, but then one of them, she's like from this bird place. Very funny. This like couple, they're like cousins, and they came from like their grandfather invented birds. It's very stupid. It's very, very funny, but everybody's like writing letters to each other, and then she writes a letter to someone like not at the table, and everyone's like, who the hell did she write a letter to? And everyone's like freaking out because nobody knows what's going on, and everybody has secrets. It's like, it's so cool. It's really, really interesting. Highly recommended.
I gotta watch it.
Yeah.
I'm not quite following.
I 100% would watch it again. It's really interesting.
Okay.
I've only seen, I think, 1.5 episodes when there's like so much happens in an episode too. But so highly recommended. Check out Dimension 20. I love it.
Nice.
That's my moment. Cool. Are you ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. The Emperor's New Groove.
Ooh.
You give us a synopsis, why don't you? It's your birthday treat.
Yes. So The Emperor's New Groove. It is a Disney film. One of the last animated films.
Mm-hmm.
It is about Emperor Kuzco.
Yes.
Who is young and doesn't give a who about anyone. So PC here.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care about anyone else. He just is ruling his empire.
Yeah.
With his right hand. She's an advisor. She's the advisor.
Yeah,
So Yzma
Mm-hmm.
is the advisor to the emperor. Very old, very evil, wants to take over, but Kuzco knocks her out before she can swoop in.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Pacha, a peasant, comes, and Kuzco's like, I am going to smash your house to put my little summer vacation home. And he's like, don't do that. And Kuzco's like, don't care about anyone.
Yeah.
Yzma decides she wants to kill Kuzco. And so she's going to poison him. But her buffoon of a bodyguard henchman,
Yeah.
he messes up the poisons, ends up turning him into a llama and is supposed to kill the llama, but his conscience gets the best of him. So he ends up throwing him on a cart that Pacha takes with him back to his village. And now Pacha and Kuzco as a llama have to find a way back to the palace. They have to find a way to work together because they have very opposite desires, and they have to avoid Yzma and Kronk, who are trying to kill them, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, it's just so stupid and so funny, and it's maybe one of the best animated films that has ever existed.
I think I have to agree with you.
Wow. Starting off strong here.
Yeah. We just rewatched it again, but what is your history with it? Like, what did you know about it maybe originally? Or what was your experience with it before now?
I mean, I watched it probably when it came out. I probably saw it in the theaters. Because, I was a kid when it came out.
Yeah.
And I obsessed right away. So me and my sisters watched it endlessly.
Mm-hmm.
We quote things. There's things that I'm like, is that quote? Because what me and my sisters do all the time is we take a quote and it like ends up not sounding like the actual
That's
quote.
a different quote. Yeah. Yeah.
But we like our things better. So we end up still quoting our thing.
Sure.
So one of the things that we always quote, but it's not really the actual quote, is touchy, no touchy.
Mm.
He says no touchy at one point, and he says no touchy at one point, but he never says touchy, no touchy.
Yeah.
But that's something that we say to each other all the time.
Oh, weird.
I don't know
That's so strange how that evolved.
how it got there, but that
I know
is
that you and I
definitely-
always do the which one.
we always
when
do.
when they throw over all of the poisons near the end and they're trying to search through stuff. That one I always imagine when it happens that I'm like, is that from Hocus Pocus? No, it's Emperor's New Groove.
I mean, endlessly quotable.
It's
That
so
movie is
quotable. Oh my goodness.
perfection. Even like the most boring lines,
Yeah.
quotable. But watching it, quoting it, I don't know very much about Mesoamerican
Yeah.
culture.
I think it's
Generally.
Incan. It's the Incan Empire. It's like Chile, around there.
Probably.
And
Peru is Incan, right?
Yeah, I think somewhere around there, right?
Peru is like known for alpacas, llamas.
Yeah. I think so. Correct us. Audience interaction. Let us know if we're wrong. We could have done all this research, but we didn't. I'm not even sure. Not important in order to know the story, for sure. And I wonder if Kuzco is like a real figure.
Like if he's based on, or if it's at least based on someone.
Yeah. Real. And I wonder too if this is like, I always had the impression that it was kind of like a new take on the Emperor's New Clothes. Well, obviously, as you could think, it was like the Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, out of touch and thinks he's like, he knows everything. And then he's shown the way. Right. I feel like it is.
And he's got the advisors that are like conning him and et cetera. And it's just kind of like twisted a little bit in order to...
A lot of it.
From the original story, for sure.
His new clothes is that he's a llama.
A llama, yeah.
But it doesn't function the same way. It's
a different story. But there's, I feel like they like started with that kernel and they were like, what if we did the Emperor's New Clothes? And they were like, well, what if? It just like kept like
instead of being
morphing.
Naked, what if he was turned into a llama?
Yeah, and then it just became like a different thing entirely. I wonder if that was like the drawing room floor was like. I remember seeing it for the first time, I think I was in high school. And it was like the movie that my mom, back when Blockbuster was still around, my mom got it from Blockbuster. And she and I watched it. It was just like Friday night, I think. And I was just like at home. And mom's like, you want to watch this? And I was like, sure. I guess it'd be fine. I didn't expect to like it.
Okay.
And just laughed the whole time. Oh. Astonished. Because like I think it was about the same time when Robin Williams had his stand-up come out, like the one from like 2001 or 2002. And so there was a lot of risque or a lot of like swearing and the stuff that we thought was funny. And my parents were like kind of exposing us more to adult humor because we were older.
In high school.
Yeah, I was a little bit older.
To be adults.
Yeah, right. And I was just like so surprised how funny something that had 0 swears in it could be.
Rated G, right? Or is it PG?
I think it's actually rated PG from originally. I don't know.
Fine.
Because it's a little still PG. Attitude, but it's PG, but it was like not a single swear.
Clean.
Very clean. And so funny. Absurdly funny. I wonder if it was PG because of her like pointy boobs. Yzma's pointy boobs.
Oh my God.
The animation is so silly.
Or the moment where she pulls up her skirt.
Oh my
and
gosh, it's so...
knife.
Freaking funny.
Terrified.
Yes. It's so funny. It's so good. But
oh, thank God, it's just a knife.
It just, from that moment, it was like one of my favorites.
From what moment?
When I watched it with my mom for the first time. From the very first time I watched it, I was like, this is brilliant. This movie is so funny. And it's so good and so satisfying. The whole way through, it just clips along.
Clicks and clips.
But I too know nothing about Mesoamerica and those empires. And there's a lot of like really cool things that I've heard about those empires. And there's like so many different little pockets and its history that's not well known in my circles. I don't know anything about it.
Sure. It's not like taught at
it's not like taught, right.
I'm sure you can take classes or whatever.
Yeah.
We could have been more informed.
We could have, but we weren't. But
I did think it added, like using that as, at the very least, I'm sure they used more of the culture than I even realized. But even just the aesthetic, just the setting, this most recent time, I thought the setting was very striking.
Yeah.
It always has been. I think like the setting it's very unique. They set it in this like, mountain.
It's in the Andes, right?
Yeah. I think
it's the Andes.
You keep making all these claims.
I know. I think it's the Andes. It's saying things like that. Oh, correct us. I think it's the Andes.
Oh my!
Or something like that. But it's like because it's those mountains in South America.
If then say it.
It's
but
the Andes.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah. And they're like really high peaks and all the villages on the little mountains, and there's all these rope bridges and
I mean like everything, even within the palace, outside of the palace, there's like everything's vertical. There's like all this vertical space. It like adds to this fantastical element, which is really cool. It feels like a fantasy world.
Yeah.
Obviously there's it's like a weird, I love when it's like, you know, a version of like a steampunk where it's like we're going back in time for futuristic elements.
Yeah.
I love when they can kind of fuse those things because it's a little fantasy, a little sci-fi. They have magic potions,
Right.
but it's like in a science lab that's like,
Yeah.
she has her secret lab.
And there's like lots of cranks and levers and
it's like it's a cool
plumbing
like
stuff and
Incan steampunk.
yeah, it's Incan steam. And she's wearing like Yzma's whole vibe is very 1920s.
Yes, very 20s.
Hollywood. Yeah.
Very, very much
Dropped
so.
waist.
Feathers in your hair.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, back when, you know, Eartha Kitt in her heyday.
Oh my God. She really is incredible in this film. They all are. The voice acting is
Yeah, that's something we've
amazing.
talked about
And
many times. And it is truly, I think, the reason, one of the reasons why this film is so excellent is, I mean, the voice acting being so great, but also the animation really leans in on facial expressions.
yeah.
They spend so much time on facial expressions, and something about that I still don't think that computer animated has gotten there yet.
No, they haven't.
It still feels like that animation still feels so, we're getting so much closer to human emotions.
Yeah.
Because we can forgive drawings more than we forgive computer renderings for some reason.
Yeah, we're getting like too close. We're getting too uncanny valley.
Sure.
When it's animated, we know it's animated.
Well, I mean, we will release this beforehand, but we have a Little Mermaid episode coming out, which will be released after this.
And we talk about that, yeah.
We talk about the animals in that and how those CGI animals are kept very realistic, and they don't give them human facial expressions.
Right.
Or if they do, it's very, very minimal.
It's really hard to...
So you lose something.
Yeah, it's hard to connect to them in that way.
And this one, I think I've seen clips of them doing some of the voice acting. They must have let them improv, because
They had to have,
If
and they
not,
had
it's
to
some
have.
of the
They
best
had to
writing
have
ever,
drawn
but
it
it was-
afterward.
yes, they had to draw.
They
to
had
the
to have
voices,
done it
because it is so natural and so, like, the choices are so stupid,
Yes.
and they just were allowed to play, and they weren't like, there's not this restriction on keep it real.
No.
This is like high camp. This is
Yes.
high fantasy. This is high like melodrama. It's clearly stylized. It is
It's
crazy.
so good too, and like the little asides that they have, like it's really brilliant how they were able to mesh those things. Because I wish I were a fly in the room, but having Eartha Kitt in there and then being just like, here's your line, say them, and then she does it like 5 times, and then they're like, well, that's the perfect take, and I'm gonna like draw Yzma's crazy eye roll, because I can just hear Eartha Kitt rolling her eyes there, you know?
Oh my God.
Oh, it's so good.
The way the animators matched, they like, we always joke that we're like, this is David Spade's best work.
It is.
Of all of his work.
And that's
And I
not,
think
it's not an
true. I don't
insult,
think-
but it's like
No,
really
it's not an
good.
insult. It's good. It's good work. And I was watching it this time. I'm like, the animators really made them shine.
Yeah.
Any hint of anything in their voice was matched in
Yeah.
their faces and highlighted and enhanced because of the animation.
I just wonder if they like, what came before that? I mean, the closest I can even think of is like, we've got the genie in Aladdin is kind of up there.
Of course,
and
Robin Williams is also a brilliant
Right,
voice
he's-
actor, and matching to him
Right.
would think.
do that. But there's just like, I don't know if the full cast having kind of that free range. Like there's John Goodman, David Spade, Eartha Kitt, who's the guy that does Kronk.
He does a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
too.
he does so much. He's in Family Guy, and he's in.
Should we take a?
Yeah, let's take a look. He's in Seinfeld too. He's Elaine's boyfriend for a minute.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I forgot.
And what's her name also from Just Shoot Me?
Yes.
Plays Pacha's wife.
Patrick Warburton.
And then she's also in Frasier near the end. She's Martin's wife at the end there.
And Wendy Malick is.
Oh my God, she's so good.
I love her too. She's so great.
Really excellent. And just all of them, you can see their personalities in all of it.
Yes.
And they were just allowed that free reign in a way that there isn't, you watch Aladdin, it's like everybody else was just kind of, here's your character and you do that character. And Jafar's excellent. They're all excellent.
I mean, maybe it's because like we're away from typical prince and princess. And so having to like bring this certain like a Disney princess has to have a certain sound, has to have a certain feel. You're getting a princess version of that person.
Yeah, you did away with the
Amy
archetype.
Adams is excellent and does it so well, and she brings so much of herself into it.
Yeah.
But it's not like the most Amy Adams
Right.
she could be. I mean, it's interesting because she breaks out of the
Right. That's part of the story of enchantment. Enchanted. Not disenchanted. That's the second one, right?
Disenchantment is the series on Netflix. Disenchanted.
Yeah, that one. That's
So
the
Enchanted
sequel.
and Disenchanted.
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
Disenchantment is
the Matt Groening. Yeah. Okay. Oh my God, it's too much content out there. We've got our work cut out for us.
I mean, again, depending on this should air in the week, but the actor strike, the SAG strike starts today.
Oh my God.
So how much more content's there going to be?
I know. There's going to be a bit of a. Oh no! What does that mean for Only Murders in the Building?
It should be wrapped.
It's wrapped, so they're just okay.
There's still
fingers crossed.
Air things.
We'll see how stuff goes. We all know how Heroes went when the other writer's strike happened, and now it's even worse with the actors gone.
Well, it's better then because
it'll be good. Well, they've got to do something, right? Yeah, they got to do something.
Well, and that'll help.
Hopefully, we'll see.
I mean, there's no way they can't do things without the actors.
Right. That's the one thing you
all
need.
SAG.
Yeah.
All SAG-AFTRA is on strike right now. It's the biggest strike since the 50s.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
Anyway. Speaking, I want to go back to, okay, so we're talking about camp.
Yes.
We're talking about, this is obviously not realism.
Right.
We are living in many a genre. And the thing I think that they set up from the very beginning, they start midway.
Yeah.
Technically, we see Kuzco as a llama
in
crying.
the rain. Yeah. I want to talk about that, but you keep going. Yeah. Put a pin in that. Keep going.
You got it.
Yeah.
So they start with him, and then they have this device that Kuzco comes in as like, I'm going to come and narrate this now. So we're already pulling away from reality. We're already being like, there's a step back from reality. This is Kuzco telling his story.
Yeah.
And they like do it in really interesting ways where they're playing it back. And it's clear in the way that he's narrating it that it's not necessarily his pure point of view because he keeps stopping things and commenting.
Yeah.
And you're like, no. Like he keeps like having to say like, this isn't
right.
What's going on here? So it sets up from the very beginning that this is not, we're not in reality. This is not, we're telling a story. We're playing with time and space and all these things, but in a very cheeky, silly, like it's not like dramatic and serious. And he's a llama. He's been turned into a llama.
Right.
We set this up, and then we have this big opening number, like a big song and dance. That's the only song sung in the
movie.
The movie. That's the only like musical number that's sung. It's like set up to be like another Disney
musical and they don't do it.
It's not a Disney musical.
No, it's not. And they did have a song. They had more songs. Like there's a song that Yzma is supposed to sing, but they cut it. And I mean, the song, it's great. If you heard it, you can find it on Spotify. It's excellent. But I'm glad they cut it because it would bog the movie down. The movie is perfect
I think we
pacing
talked about
as
this
it
in
is.
another episode, but you're right. This is it's a good example of they knew what to cut to make it as sharp as they could.
Yeah.
But they also just set us up in so many different ways that it's like, it doesn't matter if this doesn't make sense. They literally even they make a joke at the end.
The Lord of the Dance bit at the beginning.
They do
it's
a
just
whole
so stupid.
River dance.
I was like, what is this?
All of his guards are doing these soft shoe
It's so stupid.
river dance and Kuzco's
like
stomping.
part of it. Oh my God.
It's so stupid. And we're not supposed to take it seriously. And by the end, there's a moment where they literally are we're seeing them chase each other and they're going all around, they're showing on a map where they're all going, and Yzma and Kronk end up way far away from where they're supposed to be. And then when Kuzco and Pacha make their way to Yzma's lab to try to save themselves or save Kuzco, Yzma and Kronk had beat them. And they're like, how did you guys do that? And they looked at the map and they're like, you know what? I don't know.
It was almost like
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, and it's it's making fun of and commenting on structure, where it's like, well, the villains have to be here. We're at the point in the story where we have to have beaten
Disney's
you.
making fun of themselves.
Yeah,
that's
it's the
very
trope, and it's
Disney trope.
And you know what? You as the audience are going to accept this too.
Yeah.
Where we accept it. I don't question it.
No.
I don't care, because I do need the villain to be there for the final last stand.
And people do sometimes question, they're like, it doesn't let plot hole, it doesn't make sense. But this movie didn't let them do it.
Yeah.
They made the joke themselves.
They made it themselves.
It's who the fuck cares?
Right. Yeah, and I think that ties into kind of what I wanted to talk about, was a little bit of the structure there and how this movie, as
talk about structure.
A structure.
You never want to talk about structure.
I always want to talk about structure, but it's just about the story as a character transformation machine. And you mentioned that the story begins with Kuzco in the rain, and I thought it was really interesting this time around watching, because it's confusing watching Kuzco starting from this point where he's at his lowest moment. And he's like, oh, look at me crying here and everything is terrible. Come with me so I can tell this story. When we get back to that point, the Kuzco who's crying in the rain is like, oh my God, shut up, storytelling brain. Stop it. They don't want to hear about this. And he has this moment of talking to himself. And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, I couldn't figure out quite what was going on. At first, I was like, I forgot. I just couldn't quite wrap my head around it. But I've been thinking now.
Simpler than I'm sure you were trying to make it out.
I think it is, because it's like we start the story at the point where he is changing. We watch.
What?
I know, we watch the change happen, and the change happens when we're at that middle point, and he's like, come with me to tell the story, because I need to kind of wrap my mind around it. And when he gets there, he's like, oh,
he has changed.
I've changed now. So, hey, narrator brain, I know I was trying to justify this for myself. Shut up. Just leave me alone. And it's interesting because that's also where all the narration kind of stops, of course, and we move on with the story where we get kind of that last act happens. And it struck me too that there is, stay with me here. So characters, these avatars in these stories are kind of more real than real. They're realer than real in that we as human beings in life, the face is so good. We as human beings have complex problems, right? And we are very complicated people, and we are not necessarily consistent. Avatars in a story, characters are consistent.
Sure.
And they are consistent in their behavior until they can no longer do that. And there's like something that's like similar to us, sort of, but for the most part, we are not that.
It follows real, like, human nature. That's why it works in storytelling,
Right?
Because it rings true.
Right.
Humans do hold on to things until they can't.
Exactly. That's true. And it's just the difference is that a character in a story basically has one problem they have to deal with, while human beings in real life has infinite problems forever.
A story cuts out all the
Exactly.
The noise.
And I think that was really interesting that it was the first time I noticed that really is actually the first time he makes a different decision for real. There's like little glimmers of hope as you go until that moment. Like when they're always trying to get their way back to the palace. And at first he tricks Pacha, and Pacha like falls down he's a shitbag to Pacha the whole time. He falls through the bridge and isn't going to save him and leaves him for dead, and then kind of saves him a little bit. But it's like, he doesn't actually change.
No, he half commits. Like that's what I noticed this time. Like he does that thing where you're like, I'll say it, but I don't know if I believe it yet. But maybe I do. But I'm doing it in a way that I can take it back.
Yeah, and then he also does a thing in a way that he can also justify, like, whatever, like, don't think too much into it. Don't, it was an instinct. It was just like in the spur of the moment that I saved you from a crumbling cliff, right? But I think it speaks to why the story works so well, is because you have that consistency. He is the protagonist of the story. He's the one that changes.
Yeah.
You have all these other people around him that have their wants and needs that are met or not met, but he is the one that really, we're following him have this real consistent path, and then at the moment where he can no longer sustain it, he changes. And I think that really, we allow a lot of stuff to go by. Like we will accept these ridiculous things, especially if they beat us to the punch and tell us that they know. Yeah, we know. We don't, by all accounts, it doesn't make any sense that we got here first,
Right.
We will accept a lot of these things because the kind of the rhythm and like the music of the storytelling works. It's in harmony.
Yeah, they do both of the two things at the same time. They're keeping all of these elements consistent. Like you said, the characters are more archetypal, so they're very consistent, and they very like Yzma's motivation. Like she has a huge range of what she does, but it doesn't diverge from herself. Kronk is exactly the same in every moment. Like Pacha,
even Pacha, exactly the same in every moment.
His family, it's the same. There's like each little character around them. The squirrel is the same in every. Like it's like these characters, we get to. They're consistent, so we don't have to worry about them. We don't have to. We don't have to think about them. And then at the same time, they allow so many stupid little things and asides and jokes and what is it called when it's like just this is not related to anything. It's
non sequiturs.
Yeah, non sequiturs. There's just so many little teeny things that like they add flavor, but they're not even world building. They're not even they're not even story build. They're not either of them. They're just like they're world building in that they're building this like chaotic and fantastical anything goes type world where it's like yes, you can talk to squirrels. Yes, there's like you can hear a fly. Help me.
And he gets chomped.
That was the freakiest thing I've ever seen.
It's so good. The little stupid little like asides and quirky.
Some of the best line reads
so good
ever.
For real. Yeah, you think he would have turned out better. Yeah. Go figure. Oh, it's so good. It's so quotable. I think the other thing too, and about that, where they have these kind of consistent archetypes, these avatars in the story that are just like, they don't change much, but they're all kind of dealing with this bigger problem. They all are, it's a really good example of a story where if I imagine like Kuzco is telling this story to another young, 20 years down the line, to another young prince who's being a shitbag to everybody.
Okay.
And he's like, okay, I'm going to tell you this story. And it's like, yeah, you look at me. I was awesome. Look at me. And to really like ingratiate himself. He's like speaking a common language with this, single audience member that's like,
yes,
needs this help. But then you get to see also how all of the other people in that world deal with the same kind of moral issue, the same, status situation or morality situation, where how do they all deal with kind of the stakes that they're dealt?
Mm-hmm.
And
because they pull them apart. It's like almost like evil but smart, evil but dumb.
Yeah.
Neutral but dumb. Like not evil but not good.
Right.
And like good and dumb. Like there's like lots of different
like kind of
almost
combinations
like
of stuff.
D&D,
Like alignments. You have a lot of
almost.
different alignments across a bunch of different what are they called? I don't remember.
Vertices,
the graph vertices, yeah. And it's just interesting to like see it so distilled, and I think that's another reason why it works so well, is because you get to see how we're watching the one person who's going to change, Kuzco, who's going to change how he behaves, and everybody else is very consistent in how they deal with the problem, because you have this kind of, it's a very clear lesson story. Like this story is like you have to actually, this is a poster child, a prescriptive story of like, this is how you should treat people and behave in the world at large. And you get to see all these people deal with this situation, deal with this single kind of big story problem in different ways.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's another reason why it's so classic and will be forever fantastic.
Like classic structure.
That's why it works.
We're seeing the same situation put on those very consistent archetypes, and it's like a computer. It's like
like how do they do it?
And I think while you were talking, I was thinking my own things.
Yes, of course.
No, one thing you brought up, you're brought up, if this were an emperor talking to a new emperor, whatever. This story is structured, we can buy the change because we see it's like a good argument. If you're trying to, change someone's mind, you have to start from their perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
So even though from the beginning they kind of make Kuzco out to be a shitbag and a villain almost,
and
which
as
I have
the
a point about that in a second. But like, but we start from his perspective, and like we get to see him say like, see, look at them do those bad things to me.
Everyone else's fault.
See,
I didn't do a thing.
I didn't do that. Like, yeah, that sucks, but like I'm the emperor. I get to do those things. Those guys don't get to do those things.
Yeah.
Like he almost threw me off a waterfall.
Yeah.
They tried to kill me. They turned me into a llama, bashed my head in. I'm a victim.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, that's not wrong. We're not rooting for you yet, but because we're starting from that position, just like as if he was talking to a new emperor, he would be right there with them. So when he gets the change, we've gone through the journey with him, so that someone new can go through the change too.
Right. Yeah, this young princeling or something that he's talking to, he's speaking that princeling's language from the beginning, so that then when they get to the change, it's like, oh my God, you gave me all of my concessions.
From the get-go.
From the very beginning, we were on the same team, and I realized now I was able to actually go with you on the full journey. Yeah. It's really very, very brilliant. It's really cool.
I'd never thought about it in terms of storytelling, structuring a story like that.
Yeah.
Structuring the perspective like a good argument
Yeah.
by starting from a perspective. You have to start from the perspective that's going to change.
Yeah.
You have to get us on board at least a little bit. Even though they make it like you can be a couple steps out and be like, that's so silly. But it's like, they don't make it life and death. And
Yeah.
of course we feel for Pacha and his family.
Of course, yeah. We need to, because we need to actually
want him to change.
Kuzco to change.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yes.
About Kuzco.
Yeah.
I was watching and I'm like, okay, he's given some pretty classic like villain tropes.
Mm-hmm.
Is he supposed to be gay? Is he supposed to be a gay character? Is he queer coded? I mean, I will say he is queer coded. I think,
David Spade is sort of queer coded.
But do they?
Because they kind of did, like, David Spade kind of made a career on that, didn't he? To be like a little bit ambiguous.
We don't know.
Right.
He was kind of like a womanizer on Just Shoot Me.
Yeah,
But like, because
but
he wasn't a threat.
Right.
Because people just assumed he was
Right.
gay.
He was like, had that. Yeah. I don't think he actually is, but that was
But
always, he like
do you
paid
think
late to
they
that.
made Kuzco gay?
A little bit gay.
And do you think that was part of what makes us feel like he's a villain? They start, okay,
Give me more, because I haven't thought about that, and the only thing I can think of is just that
flamboyancy, and then there's that moment at the beginning
with the ladies.
and that's like the biggest one where he's just like, no.
Yeah.
And he doesn't give, there's zero romance.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie.
Right.
Except for one could make the argument. I don't think this is what it is. Make the argument that there's obviously a relationship between Pacha and Kuzco.
Yeah.
Growing. That's the relationship that we're seeing.
Right.
And there could be some hints at like finally making a relationship with a male person that he just like was refusing female companionship with the suitors and with Yzma. Like he's just like, nope, not interested.
That's interesting.
Goodbye, push away. And he like has so many villain tropes and so many like, he's like overly flamboyant and kind of out of touch with the world. And it just, I was like, is he supposed, like, I always kind of like thought he was.
Interesting.
I always just assumed that was a possibility because they don't give him any sort of love interest. He's not interested a lick in those women.
Right. He does dress and drag later too.
Yeah.
He does that whole thing. Yeah. And
there's
it's
a
like,
whole drag scene.
There's a whole drag scene where he's like, I'm going to go turn on my charm for that chef and the, he might be.
Inflated sense of self-confidence.
Yeah.
Very, very queer.
Yeah. Very, I think that would track. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Yeah. And interesting too, that like kind of bridging that into a change story where, not that it becomes straight, but this just, they have, queer coded characters as villains all the time. Our favorites, you've got Jafar and Ursula and Maleficent and Yzma for sure. And it's that they're basically just like people in drag are all the villains in Disney, and you have one now.
A lot of elements. They gave the main
really,
character
a lot of those elements. Yeah.
I mean, who are we saying is the hero in the story?
Right.
I'm asking you. Who are we saying is the hero?
Is him.
Kuzco?
Well, I guess that depends like what we mean by hero. I'm going to say protagonist, but hero is Pacha probably. He's a hero.
That's what's interesting about this story is they really kind of, I mean, Pacha is not the protagonist.
No.
For sure.
Yeah.
But is he the one who saves the day? Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. He does all the work to make...
Which obviously you don't have to...
Kuzco change.
Makes it an interesting story that the protagonist isn't
the hero.
The hero.
Yeah.
I mean, It
is because of the hero the protagonist was able to actually make the final decisions and
It's through the relationship building.
Yes, it's always relationships.
But seriously, he wouldn't have made that change if he hadn't made a relationship with this other person.
Right. What a good movie.
So freaking good.
It's so good. And if you haven't watched it, you have to watch it. It's so good.
It is very good. We don't do this all the time, but I think it's important because we're gushing.
Yeah.
What didn't work?
Yeah, part of it was like at first I doubted the narration part, the bit that I talked about.
At first, like this
watch through? This watch through, I was like, maybe this doesn't work. So it's a little confusing. And there's like the moment, it's hilarious, but like it stops and then the llama comes in and he's like, just to remind you, the story's about me, not Pacha, me. And he like scratches him out on the thing. It's very funny. And it just took me a while to kind of like, I think I love it. I think I do actually like it in the end. And that was like the first thing that I was like, that doesn't really work for me. And then I changed my mind.
Okay.
I think it's just even the idea that you've got this song at the beginning is maybe encroaching on not working.
Wow, it's yours. You're stretching.
You're
reaching.
I know. I really am.
That's goes to show how solid this film is.
They do a lot of the work to justify stuff, because that's the thing. I can. But
like I said, they do set up where it's like, yeah, there's moments that are just kind of
out there. Yeah,
and some of them are built in. Like, we're gonna cut the tension with this weird moment.
Right.
They don't feel that arbitrary.
Right.
Even though I believe that there are moments that are arbitrary.
Yeah.
Like the chimp and the bug.
Right.
Zoom out and they're like, what's with the chimp and the bug? And that's it. There's nothing to it. And I'm like,
the tension.
There's like a tension cutting. I'm wondering if it's like emulating like the focus of a child's mind.
Yeah.
It's just like the way that we're kind of like zooming in and out. Maybe it's
like
kind of
speaks to who is this movie for, right? It was for kids.
It's for kids.
And like who is the story
like one of those
for too?
Films that like I think parents overall were like, yeah, I'd watch that one.
Absolutely.
I'd watch it any day.
Any day.
It is so good. I laugh out loud at many things that I know is coming.
Yeah. Well, at night, so we listeners know, we watch like silly shows at night, like before going to bed. And it's like something like Frasier or Futurama, something we've seen before, Golden Girls, something sitcom stuff.
Yeah.
And last night I was like, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, let's just like throw on Frasier or something. It's like, you don't want to watch Emperor's New Groove? We have to talk about it tomorrow. And I was like, no, yeah, let's do that. That sounds great. Because why not? That movie's so good.
It's an easy watch. It's so good. It's such a fun ride that like those things that don't tie into the storytelling. It's like, it doesn't have to be a perfect storytelling. Isn't perfect.
Right.
It's not about.
It's never going to be
like every story structure perfectly.
Right.
We don't want that. We want there to be cracks.
Right.
We want there to be. Was it the beauty and the
imperfection or something?
The Japanese.
Yeah, the goldsmith.
It's a bigger
ceiling
concept
stuff
though. But,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, I think. That's interesting because it speaks to like what is the purpose of this piece of story. So, it's like, because it's for kids, say, we can justify a lot of these kind of non sequiturs and things that are silly. It's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with the story. It's like, yeah, but it does if you consider who is watching this.
Right.
What's the story they're telling?
Them into it.
And exactly, and how, and what is the framing of the story is also part of.
Well, and I think
storytelling.
So if we're talking about like kids and the way their brains are working in this moment, if we're trying to get them, like we're saying, if we're getting them to Kuzco's line of thinking, it's hard, I think, to get a kid to identify with a character that's mean to other characters.
Yes.
Unless there's other silly things along the way. And these asides, especially as Kuzco is narrating the story, there's these moments where it's like they make a weird thing happen and they let Kuzco have the voice of what the kids are thinking.
Yeah.
why is this happening right now? What's going on? Why is there a chip and a bug? Can we go back to the story?
Yeah.
And it lets the kids giggle and say like,
well, lets me giggle. It's not just the kids, really. It says it lets us do that as the audience. You know, it's like it is a strategy for getting us into his brain. Yeah. We can like him. Even though he's being a shit to people.
Well, and I think like we all as humans can identify and we feel the feels when we see someone be a shitbag because other people are being annoying. When other people are that's why Yzma, I think, is so fucking great. It's because you're like, so much of her terribleness happens like watching incompetent people around her. She's clearly the smartest one there.
Yeah.
She's clearly the most capable of doing everything.
Right.
And she's just like constantly watching all of the people around her be incompetent and stupid. And you're like, I get you. I understand you. That those eye rolls, they're so satisfying. Those sounds that she makes.
I'm on the herd. With the broccolis. Oh my God. It's so good.
Oh my God. Her voice acting.
I really feel for her.
I believe that Eartha Kitt is the best voice actor that has ever existed. I'm not sure.
For real. I mean, there is
anyone better.
In her performance in The Emperor's New Groove is just top tier. No one's ever done anything better. Ever. I
kind of believe that.
Yeah. R.I.P. Eartha.
She is so, so incredible.
Oh my God. So in the end, I'm like, nothing doesn't work.
I know.
But it's that the things that I would point out that don't work are things that they were very smart about. You know, it's like if I were to create this story, I probably wouldn't do it that way. Wow. I'm glad that I didn't create the story because they wouldn't have created this thing that I really love. I don't think that way.
Right. Right.
And all of it's been justified really well, and it's so fun.
Not even on a story structure level.
Right.
There's some like meta
stuff where it's not the structure of the story, it's how it's delivered to us. And that's all part of it too.
To look at some of those elements that are really hard, I think, for people to kind of understand.
Yeah.
Like, yes, this doesn't plot hole, fine, but like it's not about that. Storytelling isn't just about a plot being perfect,
right,
from A to Z.
Right.
We're not looking for that. That's not how life works. Obviously, stories don't happen like life happens, but we want to feel like it is.
Yeah.
It's happening because we identify with stories because our mind is always writing stories.
Right.
It is processing our own lives, taking out the noise.
Yeah.
And putting in the ups and
narrative,
the downs, and we create a narrative. And that becomes part of our identity.
Right.
That's how our brains work.
Right.
So we want story structure to follow a structure because our brains do that, but our brains they're not perfect.
Right.
Which makes them brilliant because we don't have to, we can see all of these different kind of nebulous ideas as one concept.
Right.
That is more intelligent.
Yeah.
That is a higher level.
It's higher than, something an AI can do. If you've ever read an AI story, my God.
Speaking of the writer's strike.
Yes.
That's
really interesting. It's like they'll never do it as well. No. It's just they couldn't possibly.
Nope.
They could get close, but it's just like close. You can tell. It's weird. Yeah, I think that's as close as I get to something that doesn't work. I don't know. I just love it so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we get to superlatives?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so Oscar moment.
What? Moment.
I just don't even know what
my
to choose.
Goodness gracious. I mean, I think maybe I'll just choose the animation, like the eye rolls. It's Yzma's eyes. Yzma's eyes get the Oscar. The Oscar for best animation. It's just the facial expressions and just the body language they're able to just convey in even just the tilt of her head, and they made her eyes so big. She's a bug, it's like even her eyelashes look like little bug legs.
And so good.
It's so funny. So such an expressive face.
Yes. With the expressive voice. It is I mean, this is incredible. It's
I mean, Eartha
incredible.
Kitt gets like a, an honorary, just give her her own Oscar.
But she could have won an Oscar for that. So.
She should have. It's really too bad that they don't get, voice performers don't get Oscars.
That's ridiculous.
You just get it for the full movie or not. But it's like, I mean, that performance is incredible.
Did that movie win Best Animated?
I have no idea.
I wonder.
We should look.
So no wins.
Okay.
One nomination.
Okay.
Do you want to guess what that is?
Music, best song
Best song
for Kuzco. Yeah.
for
I think I remember
My
that.
Funny Friend and Me. Is that
Oh
what that
my
song
God.
is called?
I
Or is
don't-
there a different song
There might be a song at the end in the credits.
by Sting? Music by Sting. Lyrics by David Hartley and Sting.
That's weird. I forgot it was a Sting musical. I forgot Sting wrote all the music.
Sting.
That's so funny.
Kuzco.
That's really too bad because it's good.
Wasn't even nominated for Best Animated. Was it before? Wait, when was Best Animated?
Best Animated started, like I think the year after Beauty and the Beast, or very soon after, because Beauty and the Beast was the
92,
only
93?
it was the only animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture, and they were like, we should just give them their own
After
category.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Because it was Best Picture.
It was nominated for Best Picture.
They're like,
we should just
we're not
give
gonna,
their
it's not
own
going to
category.
compete with.
Right. It won't ever be able to win, and what else is ever going to get on there?
So
yeah.
it should have.
It should have been nominated, but I don't know what else happened that year. I don't know. We should look. We'll give an update. Maybe that was the year Persepolis was out. Anyway, because maybe there was a ton of like brilliant stuff. I don't know. It should have been up there.
Anyway,
okay.
your Oscar.
My Oscar is Yzma's face.
All right. I will give it to, I don't know, like the art director, maybe. I mean, I think the design of all of the animals that we see. There's weird
They're so
fucking
weird.
birds and weird.
Yes.
Like everything is like,
iguanas and pillbugs and
I
monkeys.
just love when
and-
animation takes, like, it's clear that they took inspiration from the drawings of the culture.
Yeah.
And change the animation style to match that. I think that's always brilliant.
Yeah, really cool.
That's even Prince of Egypt did it a little bit.
Yeah.
What are some other good examples of that?
Well, I don't know, because a lot of the Disney stuff like ends up kind of tilting towards the realism, and it's like Prince of Egypt was a good example because it has a lot of that like hieroglyph, perspective.
Yeah.
I think they did a similar thing with The Road to El Dorado.
I was going to say that, but I'm like,
Which
that's
is
the same.
it's very
It's
similar.
Mesoamerica.
Yeah, it's Mesoamerica. It is Aztec, but it's it was a similar. I remember thinking about it because it was like, oh, they did another Disney movie with square fingers, and it like really struck me. It was the square finger thing, and I think that's because it's that influence from.
I feel like Atlantis kind of does something similar, but Atlantis isn't.
It's not real.
It's not based on a culture. But
Hercules, duh.
Hercules. That's
Oh
the
my
other-
God,
I was I knew
that's the
there
big
was
one. Yeah,
I knew there was one that was like that.
Oh, that's just the pottery.
It's just
It's just Grecian
brilliant.
urns. Yeah,
Brilliant. I love when they do that.
yeah,
I think they should do that more.
absolutely.
Disney, come on, get to it. I know Disney's totally watching our podcast.
Yeah, of course they are.
Yeah, but I'll say the
art direction.
The art direction.
It's really great.
Yeah, and the
Oh my
do you
God.
call it cinematography? Like
I don't know. I
you call it
guess so.
cinematography
Yeah,
now?
probably.
because I mean, like just the shots. I just like feeling like there's something like, oh, this is like an Avatar world. Just like these big tall drops. and
Yes.
there's like from the beginning, you're like danger. There's danger.
There's danger all the time. Yeah, it's really my stress hormone like clicks on immediately because of all of these heights, and even like his throne is at the top of this thing and there's no stairs on the way down, and it's like
They carry him up on one of those chairs. called?
palanquin. Yeah,
Palanquin?
palanquin, whatever it is.
I think it's Quinn.
Yeah.
But they carry it up these like very precarious stairs where there's nothing, like just a huge drop to the side of it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh my God.
why are they doing that?
Yeah.
But that's like, they set it up as like, there's this kind of dangerous.
This world is just always on the precipice. Everything is always on the edge of falling off.
It's just, it's like a brilliant, like, it's there. It doesn't do anything, but there's always there's in all of the danger moments, it's like they're going to drop very far.
Yeah.
That's
they do fall a lot.
They fall a lot. There's a lot of dropping very far. That's it's a common thing that happens throughout that's what happens when there's danger. They set it up. It's so well done. It's so clean. Everything is just like, yeah, it's tall. There's danger. So when there's danger, it's tall.
Wrong lever. Oh, it's so good.
Wrong lever. You did that on
purpose. Oh my God.
Best quote.
Okay, yeah, best quote. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh my God, there's so many. I'm going to turn into a flea, a harmless little flea.
Oh my God.
And put that flea into a box, and put that box into another box, and then mail that box to myself. And when it arrives, I'll smash it with a hammer. It's so good.
Or to save on postage.
To save on postage. To save on postage.
The best. After the whole thing.
Just that little punchline.
The next line right after it is so funny.
To save on postage. I'll poison him with this. Oh, it's so good. There's so many gems.
So many. I mean, you did that on purpose is so freaking funny. I like.
Oh, it's good.
I have to go watch something.
Pacha's wife is so good.
Oh, the kids, just
the
everything.
Nerve. I have to go watch something.
Yeah, go figure. I mean,
there's so many.
Eartha Kitt. It just says everything perfectly.
She really does. It's incredible. It's incredible. Are you talking to that squirrel? It's so funny.
The contempt in her voice.
Yes.
And the moments of her trying so hard to like be nice.
Yes, and just like failing so much. Failings.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable. It's perfect. It's so perfect. Oh. Just like watching her just get mad in all these conversations with the kids and the mom and brilliant.
Okay. And then last one, I think. Favorite frame. Favorite like cartoon frame.
I mean, I think
we'll say it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Cactus llama. The cactus llama. She pours the llama poison into the cactus because like Kronk messes up the drinks, and so he pours everybody the same poison, and he's like, "Don't drink the poison." He pours it on his shoulder, and she just like dumps it into the cactus. And then the next time we see the cactus, it's shaped like a llama. It's so funny.
It's dumb. It's so freaking funny.
Oh,
it's like,
my God.
Disney's pretty good at little Easter eggs here and there, and that is like one of the funniest things I like, because you don't notice it the first 12 times you watch it.
You're like, oh my God, the cactus is a llama.
Look at the cactus.
Oh my
God.
God.
Go back. Look at the cactus.
It's so stupid.
And it's just like, it's not addressed. It's perfection. I knew you were going to bring it up.
God.
I knew. It's like, we have to talk about the cactus. Oh my God, there's so many stupid moments. I guess like, if it's not the cactus llama, if I can give that one to you, it's the moment where Kronk does a stupid and then we pan out and there's like
he pauses in the middle of the brightest spot on the wall while he's sneaking around, and there's all these
just crossing
the ground. They're like, what the hell is that guy doing? And there's just fingers of like crazy like Incan gods just like pointing at the moment. It's so funny.
It's so
oh
stupid.
My God. It's brilliant. If you can't tell, we love it.
Yeah, it's hard to find something bad.
It's really hard. So I won't.
Just unearned? Is unearned? Do we have
We didn't do it. Do we have one? Do you have an unearned moment? Because I don't.
Really don't.
I really don't either.
So it's perfect. So no
the
notes.
End. I have no notes. I could say that it's over too soon, but I think if I made it any longer, it'd ruin it. I think that's wraps up. I think that's a wrap on Emperor's New Groove. We really could. We just would end up doing the whole script.
That's the problem.
Just would end up starting with it's like, let's just reenact the movie. Thank you so much for joining us for this special episode of Then a Moment. I'm Pavi Proczko, and remember, always label your poisons.
And I am Colin Funk, and remember, Squeak, squeaker, squeak, squeaking.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Then a Moment, a Pavitas production project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Proczko. This podcast is produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriu, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Proczko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Then a Moment Pod, all one word, for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at thenamomentpod@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.